Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso on S3. It's Monday morning and we're diving straight into the relationship talk, because when a relationship is fresh and new, we go all out in the way of expressing our feelings, shower each other with love, and make necessary compromises while we're in that honeymoon phase. Perhaps one of us wants kids while the other hasn't even thought about it, or one is already planning a dream wedding while the other hasn't considered marriage at all. Now, after a year or so, you realize that being in a relationship is not just about romance, especially when something between the two of you changed and you end up being stuck. Is it then when partners seek assurance, making sure that amidst the changes and the challenges in your relationship, you still choose to be with each other?
What a scene setter. Like, I felt like that was a movie that you just described.
I was the narrator.
But it's like, it's real life though, and this does happen. So today, we chat about assurance in your relationship, featuring the relationship architect, resident extraordinaire, Shelley Lewin is here, as well as a couple who knows all too well about compromise. LLB student and radio presenter Zoe George is here, and sound engineering student and musician Kenzo Constanini will be here to make sure that we unpack this properly. And if you have any thoughts or experience to share, feel free to drop us a voice note on this number. Please remember it's 063 408 8863. Let's jump straight in. Welcome, panel.
Welcome. Now, Shelley, we love having you on the show, and I love a person that's named Zoe, so I thought I would ask Zoe the first question. You and Kenzo in a relationship. How did the two of you meet?
It's actually such a funny story. So, at my very first job, I made a friend there, and after I left, after a couple years later, she just had a birthday party, a birthday braai, actually, which is funny because she's actually a vegetarian. And Kenzo was friends with her and her then boyfriend, so we met at that braai. And I want to tell you it was something romantic, like, you know, we ran into each other and just like, you know, made eye contact, and it was beautiful, but I think we just spoke throughout the night, and the more we spoke, the more we realized that we actually really wanted to get to know each other. So when he asked me out, I was actually in the middle of my exams, so I was thinking to myself when I went to the party, you know, I'm not even gonna date anyone, nothing's gonna happen. And he was in the exact same space too. So it's funny how we ended up being together, both of us, when we were in a time when we didn't even want to get into a relationship. And then the rest is history.
It's good history as well, it really is. Because I can see both of you there. I feel the resonance of love here, I do. But it's just to go in terms of the differences that have kind of connected you or really just identified your relationship. Maybe you, Kenzo, could like answer this one. Just some of the differences that have popped out. Because, you know, differences you recognize within yourself, but then sometimes you get peers and friends and outsiders recognizing the differences too. So what were they, if you could kind of just categorize them for a second?
Well, for one, I mean, I guess you can see from our complexion, we're culturally a bit different.
You are a bit tan.
Probably Zoe was raised religious, for example. I wasn't really raised religious, not from any like specific religion. My parents just like kind of raised me to be like, what's the word? I guess spiritual, is that the word?
Yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, that's one difference for one. Got a small age difference of like 2 years also. She's the older one. But yeah, funny enough though, we're both in our last year of studies. So yeah, but
that's cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, Shelley, I might sound maybe a bit pessimistic here, but you know, it's very rarely that the world allows two people to align to be together. And I'm a firm believer that opposites attract. But what are your thoughts on two different people coming together and making it work?
You know, when you combine any two things together or pair any two things, the core elements are either going to bring out the best in each other and enhance each other. So something like, think of something like even steak and red wine. The red wine, the tannin in the red wine actually enhances the flavor, okay? Or you bring two things together and they actually clash. They detract from each other. So if you put Mentos inside Coca-Cola, it creates that explosion, right? So when you put any two things together, you're going to have one of two responses, or it can be completely neutral. And I think when it comes to the pairing of people or people pairing together, the same thing applies. But it's not the differences that are the problem, it's the differences that cause disharmony that are a problem. So it's a good idea to really know who you are, who you're not, what it is that matters to you, and then align yourself with someone that finds those things equally important. Otherwise, it causes big disharmony between the two of you.
Okay.
Disharmony is a powerful word. Now, for you two, there are clear differences. I mean, Kenzo, you've stated them as well. But now I think about this word assurance, which is why we're here today. Assurance is because when you are so different, there's that thing in the back of your mind around, what if she finds somebody that's more like her and not like me? What if you find somebody that's more like you, not like her? What creates that assurance for you guys, before we unpack it with our relationship architect later, and of course a couple of comments, what are the assurances that you feel in this relationship? Maybe Zoe, you can answer this one. What is that thing in your mind that says, this is strong?
Well, like Kenzo mentioned earlier, there are quite a few differences between us. Our religious backgrounds are very different. So for me, in the beginning, that was actually a very big difference for me, because I obviously wanted to be with someone who shared my faith. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, it was a bit difficult, but as the time went by, I could see that he genuinely had what I was looking for. He's a good person, he shares my morals, my ethics, and even though he may not necessarily share my beliefs, I feel like his character is better than many Christians I've actually met, which is kind of sad, actually, when you think about it. But in doing that, I've also spent quite a bit of time in prayer. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on air, but yeah, and I genuinely believe that I am in the right place, the right time, and that this is where I'm supposed to be with him. So that gives me the assurance, prayer, and also the fact that I can see that both of us genuinely put in a real effort to stay together. Despite our differences, which there are quite a few actually, we work a way around it, we compromise, we find a way to meet each other in the middle so that we can both enjoy this time we spend together and our relationship.
Oh, listen, we can talk love all day. We are talking relationships right now. Shelly Lewin, Zoe and Kenzo, they are not going anywhere. They're going to stay with us as we unpack a little bit more on today's topic. And of course, our WhatsApp line is open. We would love to hear your comments. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. That number is 063 408 8863.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is Expresso live at S3. Happy Monday, and we're back with our panel discussing seeking assurance in your relationship, especially when your desires are not necessarily aligned. And we're joined again by the relationship architect, Shelly Lewin, and a couple who knows all too well about compromise, Zoe George and Kenzo Castanini. And if you have any thoughts or experience to share, please feel free to use the WhatsApp line 063 408863. In fact, talking about that WhatsApp line, we do have a voice note from Gloria who actually wanted to weigh in. Let's take a listen.
I'd definitely rate myself a 9. For me, confidence is everything. Like, if you don't have confidence, I feel like there's no need at all to be with someone or to be with me or to be involved with me, because I'm not about to boost someone's confidence all the time. Someone who doesn't have confidence, it's quite draining. I've experienced it with the next person. It was not a nice experience.
Okay.
And I mean, at least that the boundaries are set up, and Gloria knows exactly what she wants. And if you want somebody with confidence, it is actually okay to set up those boundaries. And today we just focus on self-assurance in a relationship as well, and just continue the conversation with our relationship architect.
Now, Shelly, at what point does differences in a relationship actually weaken the bond?
So if you think about it, when something is a priority for you, you always find time for it, money, energy, you make time and space for it in your life. Yeah. So you will prioritize that thing. And if you are with someone who has completely different priorities, that is finding time, money, effort and energy on something completely different, what can happen is that the two of you start to live separate lives or parallel lives, and it can cause neglect or indifference. And the other thing is that if you aren't respecting the things that are a priority for your partner, it can cause a problem. But I know that Zoe and Kenzo mentioned that he actually joins you at church.
Yeah,
so he's respecting the things that are a priority for Zoe, and that's the point. You really have to, otherwise it will weaken the relationship because you'll just slowly start to drift apart.
You know, a relationship actually exists in a world where there are outside factors. So, Zoe, with regard to some of the outside factors that you've noticed, I mean, you can have a happy bubble and just go on, but they do affect us. They are there. We're not going to be naive to them. What are some of those for you?
Well, Kenzo and I are two very separate people. We live our own separate lives. So I'd say the obvious factors will be the fact that we're both studying full-time.
Yeah.
I have some jobs. I'm a radio presenter, amongst other things. But I would say the main factors that are, you know, outside of our bubble would perhaps be maybe my family. They're not against this union or relationship at all, but, you know, they would want me to do certain things. You know, I'm Nigerian. We have certain ethnic rituals that we have, well, not rituals, but like customs
Yes.
that we have to do when we are married. And like, you know, those things, being unable to do them here in South Africa, also my family wanting, I don't know, like they really do like Kenzo though. Let me just say that. Yeah, just for the record, but yeah, they would perhaps want him to do certain things that he may not be ready to do yet. So that is an outside factor, perhaps. Just the whole me being so deeply ingrained in the church and, yeah, that.
Okay, interesting. Now, Kenzo, I know that, you know, often compromises, it happens in a relationship, especially when it's two different personalities trying to work at making a healthy relationship work. Shelley just mentioned earlier, one of the compromises is that you go with Zoe to church. How do the two of you make compromises in your relationship?
Well, I guess you could say communication is key.
Yeah.
I think in any relationship, that's like a relationship, just a friend or, you know, a partner, whichever it may be. I think communication is very important, especially for the hard topics. Like, of course, they're not easy to talk about, but that's why they're called hard topics. So I think, yeah, any hurdle that comes our way, we just kind of deal with it and like talk about it openly, you know. I think that's very important, yeah.
Communication is key. I love that. It's not even a cliche. It's actually it's a blueprint. You know,
Yeah,
it's so important.
Yeah.
But talking about blueprints, let's go to the relationship architect, Shelley. Now, it's a tough question. I'm sorry, but you are the architect. When is a good time to have those tough, hard topic conversations? And I know it's a tough one because, you know, dating world, you can't put a time on anything. So just from your side, the religious beliefs, the views, the opinions, what you think of the vaccine, all of those things. I mean, these are big things that people they had to navigate this throughout the past 2 years. So when do you have those conversations?
Well, I think there's no shame in being who you are and wanting what you want and having the things that are important to you be important to you. So you really want to have those conversations as soon as possible and don't delay at all on the things that matter. And I think that the moment you start to delay on these difficult topics where you're avoiding the conversation, and exactly what Kenzo said, it's about, I wouldn't say compromise, more accommodating each other.
Yes.
You're accommodating each other and you're having communication and respecting each other and keeping the conversation going. So the sooner you can have them, the better, and the more frequently, the more differences there are, the more frequently you can have them, the better.
I love that there's no cap on having those difficult conversations, because I assume the two of you were friends before you started dating. You became friends first before you dated.
Yeah.
We actually met a year before, and we like just followed each other on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, he used to like make music and then he'd like message me like, did you listen to my new song? And I was like, oh wait, let me just go listen to it quickly. And then be like, oh, I loved it.
Kenzo, well played. I have to say that. We have many more things to unpack, but thank you for your honesty. And I know we're tapping into the depths of your relationship, but I mean, this is all for a good cause. Yeah, we're getting straight in there. We're sliding into the DMs of the relationship, but we have so many more little facets of this to talk about. If you have any comments or experiences, please share 063 408 8863. We'll continue in the next couple of moments.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show on S3, and we are continuing our conversation around relationships. And even in the strongest relationships, getting on the same page about the big questions can feel impossible at times. And that's why today we are discussing and seeking assurance in our relationships, especially when your desires are not necessarily aligned. Now, we are joined again by the relationship architect, Shelley Lewin, as well as the beautiful couple, Zoe George and Kenzo Castanini. There we go.
If you have any thoughts, just send it our way, please. And 063-408-8863.
There we go. Now, it's beautiful that you're here. And I know, Shelley, sometimes it gets really, really tough. But how do we do it when our desires in our relationship are so different, but we want to keep going in the relationship?
You want to keep going as long as you never have to sacrifice who you are and sacrifice your self-respect or your dignity. So as long as you can maintain who you are and the thing that really matter to you. So, you know, Zoe's not going to sacrifice her religious beliefs and give up the church in order to make the relationship work. If she was to do that, the relationship wouldn't work. So if you want to make it work, you really have to respect each other and learn to collaborate well with each other.
And if you had to flip the script and you realize, okay, we love each other, but our core beliefs and our core alignment is just not a match, when do you then decide, okay, it's maybe best for us to step away from the relationship?
Well, I think it comes back to what I said about the giving up who you are and compromising your self-respect and your dignity. You know, when you can't be who you are and you have to be someone else in the relationship to make it work, no relationship is worth that, giving up who you are in the world.
Well, talking about that, I'd like to try something with you two, because the relationship architect taught me everything I know. But, you know, when it comes to you, Zoe, looking at Kenzo, understanding the character, the beliefs, the qualities. Oh, look at that look. I love it. It's working already. This is great. What are some of the qualities in Kenzo that make you and give you the assurance that you can weather any storm?
Well, Kenzo is one of the kindest, most sweetest, empathetic person I've ever met. He truly does persevere through everything we go through, and we have had some issues that we've had to talk about, even though, I don't like talking. So, like, we've weathered through that quite well. So I think the fact that he just never gives up, he's very determined, and he is just a good person. Like, how can you not want to fight for this?
This is a very good session. Can we flip it around now? And let's go to you, Kenzo. Right, with the same amount of conviction. Zoe, qualities that help you weather any storm.
Yeah.
I guess I could say the same about Zoe. You know, she's quite determined as a person. Yeah, like, as I said earlier, also, like, communication, you know, it's always the key, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not really the expert, but I think, I think communication, of course, and talking about those hard things and compromising what you have, what you have to compromise. Yeah, it gets, I mean, it's not always easy, of course, but yeah, all good things come to people. You know, put effort into it, and yeah.
It all pays off.
Yes.
Now, Shelley, I feel like we get a lot of assurance from you, being the expert, being the relationship architect. What advice do you have for couples that perhaps, you know, are not, or maybe struggling to have those difficult conversations that can lead to not necessarily compromise, but harmony in their relationship?
Okay, so what I really love hearing from the two of you today is, can you hear how much positive regard there is for each other? You know, there's a lot of respect. I can see that there's a lot of sincere respect and regard for each other. And as long as you can maintain that respect for one another and for the differences that you have for each other, and you find ways to collaborate around those and find a way of working around those, that you can really make anything work as long as you're maintaining the respect, the communication, the collaboration, But when the respect starts to dissolve and you stop caring, and when contempt starts to filter into the relationship, the moment there's contempt for one another because of the differences that you have, that can really start to become abrasive and break and erode the respect. And then when the respect is gone, then you start having big troubles in the relationship. So I think that as much as possible to keep the communication alive and going so that you can really understand and maintain that positive regard for each other.
This has been such a motivating conversation for anybody who is having a bit of difficulty listening to you two, especially when you stare into each other's eyes and tell each other about the qualities. That was great. I love that one. It was my favorite. But to you, Kenzo, and to you, Zoe, thank you so much for sharing. I know we got really deep into your relationship, but you were very open and honest about it. And I think that's just a testament to how much you communicate and how much, sort of open honesty is available in your relationship, which is great. And also to you, Shelley, just for giving us the guiding light that we need. Yes. Thank you so much for that. The relationship scaffolding was put up today, and I appreciate that. That was absolutely wonderful.